more for you, you feel it. You know it. This is your life, and it's time to go from contender to champion. This is The Show with John Madsen.
Welcome back to The Show, everybody. I'm your host, John Madsen. This is The Show. Once again, super excited to be here. Thank you for all of the support. This message is growing. It's reaching a wider audience, and I get a ton of feedback every single week because of you guys sharing it, because of you guys talking about it. And I couldn't be more excited about the direction of the show. Almost 200 episodes in. For you new listeners, thank you for tuning in. It wasn't that long ago that I was recording episodes with a microphone that I plugged right into my iPhone and recorded out of my truck. Now you see a studio, which is awesome, but it didn't start that way. And a lot of times people wait to start something because they think they're not ready. And this is one of those things in my life, just like football was, just like my business was, where starting because of the vision and not being perfect and not having everything you need leads to success if you persist enough to continue to put in the work every single day and stack wins and learn from the losses. Because in my opinion, and the opinion of the great mentors that I have, you either win or you learn. It's not win, lose. It's not win, fail. It's not pass, fail. It's win or learn. And if you can attack anything, whether it's your business, relationships, fitness, whatever it is in your life with that mentality, you're going to go a long way. So real quick, I did purchase the R8 Audi. And I mean, if anybody's not ever driven a supercar, that is something you should consider doing at some point in your life. I didn't know how much I liked supercars until I sat in one and drove one. So this car is just ridiculous on a whole other level. I was going in to buy to see if I could fit into a Lambo. And actually not unfortunately, because I love this Audi so much, I can't fit. I'm 6'5". I can't, like the way that the windshield is slanted and the seats, there's just not enough room for a 6'5" driver. I might need a special seat or something, but it's almost impossible for me to drive the Lambo. And so the Audi R8, for you car enthusiasts, has the same engine, I guess, and makeup as the Lambo Huracan. So I'm not, I'm not an expert at supercars, but this car supposedly beats the Huracan and, reaches a top speed of 205, 610 horsepower. And the way that it drives on the road and the way that it sounds is fucking phenomenal, which is part of what I want to talk about today. A lot of people, and this is going to make sense why I led with that story and what I'm about to talk about in a second. But a lot of people want you to change your behavior to get a different result. And I've talked about this. I feel like I've hammered it, but people still miss this. Everything that I do in my life is for the automation of a certain type of feeling. Because here's the real secret. Here's the secret that if you can grasp this, you will be more successful than you could ever consider. And the reason people aren't truly successful, in my opinion, whether, again, it's in their bodies or fitness, is because they don't understand this one concept. Somehow this has been lost. And if you read some of the books, like Think and Grow Rich, one of the first things that it talks about is what I'm going to talk about. But I read that 10 times and never caught on until 2 years ago. Because society, what you're conditioned to believe, what you're conditioned to think you should like versus what you actually like is it dampers it. It takes away from the real truth of this matter. And there's a couple examples that I'm going to get into because they're at like top of my head right now. But most coaches and most everybody still think that you have to do stuff despite feeling poorly. And sometimes that's true. So think about this. Sometimes high performance or success requires that you do stuff that you don't feel like doing to get something that you want. And absolutely that's true, because there's going to be times in your life where you don't necessarily feel like doing something. Sometimes I don't necessarily feel like going to the gym and doing 5 sets of 10 squats, right? And then what happens is people broadcast this necessity to always do stuff that you don't feel like doing to get a result that you think you want, but you don't really. Because if you truly wanted it, you'd actually feel like doing those things. So my question to you is, what if you actually felt like doing the thing 90% of the time? Because you get in trouble if you're always doing stuff you don't feel like doing. You will grind your willpower down and you will lose. That is like swimming upstream. Imagine yourself in a river just paddling your ass off, trying to swim your ass off, going against the grain. That's what they're trying to tell you to do. What I'm trying to tell you to do is to do the opposite. Swim with the current. Stop grinding so hard. Tap into that feeling so that it automates the behavior. That's the secret. When you can automate the behavior to do what you ultimately want to do, to get you closer to your goals, to get you closer to your dreams, and you can do that even 80% of the time, or even 90% of the time. That's why winners win, because the other people are battling this negative feeling. This feeling of not wanting to do something, this feeling of grind, this feeling of hard. And they're doing that and they don't feel like doing stuff 20% of the time. So 80% of the time they're swimming against the grain. And then they wonder why they burn out, because even if they have short-term success, eventually it's going to be too much. The willpower will win. And so this feeling, right? And so what I'm really trying to hammer here is you want to be able to elicit the feeling, not the behavior. You want to elicit the feeling that is going to predict the behavior. That's going to the root of the problem. And I know if you go back 180 episodes, I've probably touched on this 10 times. I don't know. But the real deal here is if you feel like it, more often than you don't, you feel like performing at a championship level. You feel like doing whatever it takes because that result is a magnet to you. You feel like it. That is going to absolutely win over time. And if you think about this from a sports perspective, where Kobe Bryant talks about waking up, or he talked about waking up at 4 a.m. and that sacrifice to a lot of people. And it was absolutely some sacrifice involved for him. But the reason he felt like it is because he desired the outcome so much more than other people, that doing whatever it took to get there was truly just part of the deal. It was going to take what it takes, and he was good with that. If that's your business, you have to understand that if you can't make yourself feel a certain way, it's going to be really hard. So how do you do this? I've built my life around building this feeling. Everything that I do is to elicit a feeling of motivation, a feeling of desire, a feeling of want, a feeling of not settling. Everything. So when I go and I buy the supercar and I get in it and I just literally drove it in, windows down, music up, it sounds fucking phenomenal. And as I'm driving in and I park it and I look at it, it's not really the car, it's the feeling. I'm not idolizing the car. I'm idolizing the feeling that it elicits because it motivates me. I promise you, if I get out of a beat up Honda and try to go into the gym and work out, I swear to God, I know this sounds like two different things, but it's not. Compared to getting out of the car that I ultimately want, the car that like I love to drive, that's an experience. You feel different. And maybe you're like, John, I really don't give a shit about that stuff. Maybe you don't, right? Maybe you truly don't. But a lot of that is because we're conditioned to believe that we don't need certain things, that we're conditioned to believe that a car is just there to get us from point A to point B, that a house is just to provide shelter, that you could be happy just living in, a box. But where does it end, right? If you're always settling for what you need and never going for what you want, you're always dumbing down that desire inside of you. You're like, I just need a house. It doesn't need to be a big house. It doesn't need to be in the nicest neighborhood. Okay, well, how far are you going to settle? Could it be, you going to settle for a mid-tier neighborhood? Or why don't we just put that little box in, a terrible neighborhood? And you're like, no, I can't do that. I got kids. They got to be safe. I'm like, okay, so you're not going to you're not going to settle for all the way back here, but you will settle for middle of the road. Yeah. And that's what people do. And when they settle, that's precisely where they get stuck. There's no desire to pull them forward. And so a lot of you guys, and what I did in the past is I settled for what I needed because I thought that I should be grateful for what I had. And I didn't realize that I can be grateful and I could aspire to be more at the same exact time. And if I elicited and was true to myself and built that desire to become whatever I could be, to have whatever I wanted, and it was okay to have and be deserving and worthy of whatever I wanted, then I could stack all of that want and all of that desire so that I surround myself with stuff that makes me feel a certain way. And I focus on things that I want so it elicits that motivation. So I create the feeling and then the behavior. Whatever I got to do to get it is just fine to me. I'll go do it and I'll outwork anybody because I want something so much more than the other person. That's the secret. It's tapping into the true core of motivation. And when you tap into the true core of motivation and you surround yourself with stuff that you feel deserving of and that you actually want and that makes you feel good in doing, you perform differently. When I played football, we used to always say, back when we were in Little League, all the way through the NFL, the same saying kept popping up: look good, feel good, play good. Look good, feel good, play good. It's not look shitty, feel shitty, play good. It just doesn't work like that. And life is the same way. You look good, you feel good, you play good. You look good, you feel good, your behavior is different, you get the outcome that you want. And so many people just like, fuck it, I got to do what I don't want to do to get what I want. And that's just a program that you're running. If you can tap into the deeper purpose of all of it, and you could control the amount of want and desire for whatever the thing is, and you could elicit that feeling on demand, and you could automate the behavior, then things get easier. It doesn't ever feel like burnout. It just feels like flow. It doesn't feel like grind. It feels like you're moving through life and you're attracting and you're living in a way that feels truly more effortless and more easy than the grind mentality. And that's what I want for you. I want you guys to feel it. I want you to taste it. I want you to see it. And I know the problem because when I talk to people, I talked to one of my friends who I hadn't seen in years. And we used to, train together and play sports together. And he's seen, my life and social media and kind of take off like this. And he's like, yeah, man, I don't need to have like abs 365 days a year, John. I just need to not look like a fat ass. Here's what I want you to get. I just need needs to never ever be on the tip of your tongue again. Because it's precisely this that keeps people away from their greatness. It's precisely this that doesn't allow the world to see your true gifts. It's precisely this that dumbs down all of your desire, all of your want, and makes you settle for what you need. It's precisely this why you go to the dealership and you look at different options and you settle for the one that you need instead of the one that you want. And every time you do that, you send a direct signal to your unconscious that you're not deserving of what you want. You only deserve what you need. And it's precisely that signals to the universe that you're scarce and not abundant. It's precisely that is keeping you from living an epic life. So it might not seem like a lot to you, but the term "I just need" is fucking killing you. It's fucking making it impossible for you to win. I just need, or if you're in a marriage, we just need, or if you tell your kids, you just need, you're fucking them up and you're fucking yourself up. I make this podcast because I want you to win. I make this podcast because I truly want to share what's helped me. And I make this podcast because all of this stuff that I talk about is not rocket science. It's just conditioning. It's just programming that you've been taught, that we've been taught, that society keeps teaching. And it keeps everyone fucking stuck until you can wake up and break out of the matrix and start living in a way that feels magical. Because you give yourself permission to win. You give yourself permission to deserve. You give yourself permission to do what most people can't even conceive. And every single one of us has this power inside of us, but we're too conditioned to settle all the time. We're too conditioned to dumb down that desire, to think that desire is somehow in some way not a good thing. And so we walk around unmotivated. We walk around with this feeling of not really feeling like doing shit because we can't see the purpose. We can't see the want. We can't see the desire. So in an unmotivated state, you're not ever going to outperform somebody who wakes up fucking motivated every day at 4 a.m. and can't wait to do the things that they're doing because of what it represents, because of the purpose, because of that control center, which is their motivation. You cannot beat them. You can try to beat them for 90 days. You will not beat them over a lifetime. It can't happen. So I know that I put a lot into this podcast. You might seriously need to listen to it 3, 4, 5, 10 times. Don't ever say that I just need anything anymore. Start going for what you want. And that starts with actually knowing what you want so that you give your unconscious mind coordinates to actually go get it. So that's the first thing. But what I also want you to get out of this podcast is that you are deserving, you are worthy, you do deserve to live a certain way, and ultimately you have to give yourself permission. Nobody else is going to do it for you. And if you can do all of that stuff, you are going to succeed wildly. Again, it's not rocket science. It's not actually that hard. It's conditioning and it's programming that you got to break free from. So keep listening to this podcast, like it, share it. If this hit, please send me a message on Instagram, send me a screenshot. I love that stuff. I love interacting with you guys. If you want me to hit on a certain topic, DM me and I love talking about what you guys want me to talk about. So hopefully you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you so much for joining us for another amazing episode of The Show with John Madsen. The greatest compliment that you could give us is liking, loving, and sharing this episode with all of your friends. So please go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and review, and then share it online with everyone that you know. Make sure to tag John as well. He loves to hear from listeners of the show. The links for all of his socials and iTunes are in the show notes. Also, if you'd like to engage John for anything related to his coaching, consulting, or programs, please visit johnmadsen.com for everything you'd need to know on how to engage with John offline. And lastly, thank you for your time, your attention, and your consideration. This is The Show.